And we are rolling with my friend James True. How are you
Hello.
today?
I'm great. How are you doing, Carmen?
Good. You've been amping up. You had 5 shows this week from noon to 2:30. I don't know how you riffed that long.
Well, I didn't make it. I tried. That's the goal. And then I think it works. Technically I can do that. I do that anyway. If you consider dojo, we do an after my live stream.
It's
And
true.
then, so I've already been doing 2.5 anyway, but I've noticed that I think I would be seeing a better audience if I could stay live longer because you would hopefully reach new people. So that's been my goal is I cannot get people to find the channel. And so I just feel like there's a plateau that's just really been killing me. And so I decided, to go 2.5 hours. I don't mean to make this about the topic, but yeah,
No,
that's
I
why I've
think
been.
it's great. I think it's great. I honestly think of my channel as just a place for me to kind of document my life, so to speak, and
Yeah.
and grab things that I like and things that I like learning. And lately, you've been one of my big resources for learning, and I truly appreciate it. And it's also been very reciprocal. The people on your channel are very kind, and the people in your chat are wonderful. And so it's been fun learning from you.
Well, I enjoy our conversations, and yeah, so much of why I was able to go live every day is there's so much is happening.
Yeah.
The plates have shifted, the tectonic plates of psychic willpower, are just on display right now. Just things are just really, really intense, and I think this is almost a new normal. I think it's been a normal for a while. I'm saying
Yeah.
almost because eventually we'll admit that that's what it was the whole time. And so there's just a lot to cover. There's a lot of things to discuss. There's a lot of things that I feel could be misinterpreted if I'm not streaming every day.
Right.
So that's probably the biggest motivator is just
Well, you're
there's
really
just
talented and you're funny and you're weird, which I love weird. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing. And just so you're just very quick-witted and very intelligent. I mean, honestly, even just the little nuances, like talking about those ivory boomerangs this week on your show and
Mhm.
how, those are a real thing. And so it's
Yeah.
really fun. It's just those little nuances and those little things that you start becoming more aware of the world around you. And so it's been fun. And so I thought, since mythology like the back of your hand, I thought it
Yeah.
would be fun. I thought it would be fun to chat about. You made a comment, I guess it was 2 shows ago, that mythology is everywhere. And I
Mhm.
was kind of like, I wonder what he means by that. Because I know it's in art and I know it's in, but you were giving examples of like where it is in politics and where it is in health.
Mhm.
And so I thought it would be fun for you to kind of share some of your thoughts on that. If you wouldn't mind though, just giving people what is mythology? Yeah.
So mythology, yeah. So mythology is everything you think it is. I'm not trying to change that. Not you, Karin, but like what the listener would think mythology is. It is that, but it's also more. It's sort of a special version of folklore, isn't it? There's folklore. There's bullshit. You got your bullshit, your caca, and then your that's crazy, and then you got your that ain't right, and then you got your false, and then you have your true, and then separate from all those containers, you've got this other container called mythology. It's very unique set. It's almost a religion. It's almost a truth. More than anything else, it fits inside of the realm of psychology, of Jungian psychology, but it certainly doesn't come birthed out of that because it existed so much longer before Jung was even born. So what is it? What is mythology? And Jung would tell you the archetypes are um, a predictable shape of psychic energy that you call forth in your mind. I call these flavor crystals because if you were to place the flavor of a constellation on your tongue, it called Orion. Orion. This is an onion ring that has a shape that's 3 stars in a belt, and you can see it. I don't have to go on. If you've been taught the mythology, you see it. But when you see something, it puts you into a certain kind of framework or state. You and it doesn't have to be so specific, but as an example, the Orion's the hunter has this phallus or a sword. That sword has this, the end of the tip of it is red. It's a nebula that's bleeding, and it's the center of the sky, and it's a hunter and it's chasing these things. Everything I just told you about is an archetype or a mythology that's built into the shape of that constellation, of the idea in your mind. What Jung would say, and this isn't, I'm not trying to even represent Jung. I don't think I could do that effectively. But if you want to understand what mythology would be, you would see mythology as a kind of key, a kind of compression, and that these compressions almost seem to be built in to the fabric of life. I say almost because they might as well be, because everyone seems to recognize a central thing. Africa is one of the few continents that does not necessarily see Regulus as the chest of a lion, but most do. Most cultures do see a lion in the constellation Leo. We've named the stars according to the mythology. That mythology is either something that we predicted that would happen in the future, which this kind of blows people away, so they're not as comfortable. But in order to approach mythology, we could at least all accept that it's the stuff that's in the ancient past. So I propose that there's an oracle of mythology. I know this sounds kind of nuts, but it's not nuts. It's just so complicated. I'm sorry, but I think that you can use the oracle of mythology to see into the future and the past, and we only think of it as being able to see into the past. And I think it's kind of like zooming out, where you've spent your entire life with microscopes strapped to your eyes, and you've been able to see everything so clearly and perfectly. Why would you change that? But the whole time there's this ability to kind of go like this and move your eyes off the eyepiece, and that's mythology.
Right.
And so it is the truth, although it's completely irrelevant, but it is the truth. And there's certain truths. It has a kind of shape. I
Right.
call it a scaffolding. I'm not trying to be fancy, but it's kind of like a scaffolding to where you get to see what's behind the theater, what's behind the curtain. And I think that mythology is almost like a sense that hasn't come online yet. We see it as something outside of ourselves, but honestly, it's an intuitive sort of like nose or an ear or a tongue, but it's tasting the symbology, the archetype of what's there.
Yeah, it does remind me of, yeah, archetype studies too, when you get more specific into people or types of people.
Mhm.
But it was so funny because I don't know, have you ever seen the movie V for Vendetta?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I watched it November 5th, just because I think it's kind of fun to do.
Mhm.
But it was funny because I wrote this down specifically for this, and it's just what you were talking about. But when the police officer is talking about Guy Fawkes or Anonymous or whoever it was, he said, the problem is that he knows us better than we know ourselves. And he's talking about the feeling he had when he went in and realized the evil. And he said, I suddenly had this feeling everything was connected. It was
Mm.
like I could see the whole thing, a long chain of events that stretched all the way back to Larkhill in the movie. I felt like I could see everything that had happened and everything that was going to happen. And it was like a perfect pattern in front of me. I realized we are all part of it and that we are all also trapped by it.
Mhm.
Doesn't that just
Beautiful.
remind you of what you just said?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's so true because, and I think that's what I admire about your show, is you are making more and more patterns visible to people,
Mhm.
and also allowing people to kind of put them in their own compartments, even though you might suggest a compartment. Does that seem fair?
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with antlers. The The shape of an antler, a 1 point buck, a 2 point buck, these are the number of pokey horns on an antlers. And they're if you have a 6 point buck, that's considered a more valuable antler. And I think the reason why it's more valuable is because the meat has so much more complexity. It has so much more of a salt memory. And the reason why is because the antler is there to perceive a shape that's more majestic than a 2 point buck. A 2 point buck is only going to be seeking and be open to a kind of consciousness that has 2 octaves. Just to give an example,
That's
while
a
an
great
eight
example.
while an 8 point buck would have maybe 8 octaves and it would have 8 notes, and it would be attracting someone who has an appetite for a chorus or for an orchestra, and that this even enjoying a choir instead of being terrified of a bunch of people screaming requires a certain kind of confidence in you, the listener. And so your face has these antlers inside your ventral nervous system in your face is broadcasting the same way a buck does. It's casting a certain kind of resonance that's expecting or hoping for an audience on that channel, on channel 8. And ultimately, when you tap into mythology, I think that you're seeing that there's a CB, there's a breaker 19, this kind of CB, in case people don't know what I mean. There's a wireless radio transmitter inside your cockpit, and you've been long trying to ignore the squawk because it's just constantly and all this weird shit, and you finally turned it down, and now we're in a world where you can turn that up, and it's annoying as fuck. And a lot of us just want to check out. We don't want to drive anymore. So we were given exits, but this is the new reality. And mythology literally is the only thing I can think of that shows you where the channels are.
Right.
And when you go to the same place, when you go to a uh, Taylor Spears concert, or I'm trying to merge them all together.
Yeah.
The more popular kind of place is going to have more antlers on it because it's attracting all the different frequencies, and that the mythology itself is what's connecting us. And the mythology is much more permeable than it already is. That's why I started off with saying mythology is everything you think it is. And it's also this, because it's politics, it's science. We can get to that, but I swear to you, it's science, it's social, it's society, it's your interpersonal relationships, it's your enmeshment with your parents, it's your psychopathic ex, it's your it's your codependent relationships, it's your divorce, it's your fiance, it's your wedding. And these are all different parts of digesting this place. Mythology really gives you permission to step away from this fascism of everything has to be the same or right, or no one has to ever feel bad, or everyone has to completely have justice all the time, and everyone has to feel equality, and there has to be 2 genders, or there has to be 17. All these are kind of fascisms where all I see is people arguing over we have to fucking agree. We have to agree. And mythology gives you permission. This happened today in Dojo. I have an Isaac Abraham, the story, all the Bible is mythology too. It's beautiful mythology. But the idea of Abraham sacrificing his son Isaac, I have a very specific, quite narrow-minded take. It's fun. I play this song and this is how I play it. And Cameron's able to see that and go, well, here's how I see it. And because we're living in mythology, there's not this, well, those facts aren't right because
Yeah.
ABC News said that this happened and this happened. But meanwhile, all of politics is mythology too. But because you have so many antlers, you've got so much people that prison sentences, their lives, the lives of innocent people, trillions of dollars are up for grabs. And you end up with this intense psychopathy that would come out of the best of us, the most virgin of us, the most pure of us, would walk into that sun and radiate the same kind of fucking sick poison, because that's what it feels to be on that antler and to experience that kind of place. when you think about Donald Trump, you could say this isn't fair, he's in charge, but you could be Donald Trump. All you'd have to do is commit 34 felonies. You'd have to have this idea of how you view the world. You'd have to be able to bankrupt yourself over and fucking over again. You'd have to be able to place someone else's scrotum in your mouth from another country. You'd have to be willing to sell your daughter. You really would. You'd give your daughter away in a deal. You'd have to have a really long relationship with Epstein and never really notice that this guy's kind of creepy. This
Yeah.
is the best case scenario, right? Your best case would be, I never noticed he was creepy. And that if you want to be that, you can. What you're seeing is a quantum matrix that's just telling you how much everything costs. Everything has this very simple equation. It's an automat. You can have anything here. And the truth of the matter is that there's only one person that's like, oh, I just really want to be Donald Trump. It is a very specific appetite that has a very, very specific cost involved to get it. So this is all a cost quantum. It's a prana economy
Right.
of what we believe is important and what we find necessary. And the only way we can have this without fascism is to call it mythology.
So
Mythology, right? Mythology. Sorry, I'm done. But
no, I
isn't
didn't
that
know. I
cool?
thought you were done. I'm sorry.
I thought I was, but then I saw Renee's name and she does this. I hear mythology. It is mythology. It just came. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I forgot what I was going to say anyway because we got off on that. But oh, what was it? It had to do with Trump. Oh, I know, the costs. So in a prana economy, which would be, if I'm interpreting you correctly, it's the amount of energy you have and the amount of energy we all have, and in exchanging this energy instead of money, it's something else. So somebody like Trump who can stand in all that energy being thrown at him and not have a cost for shame or guilt or things like that, does it make you a different kind of person because you can do that, in your opinion?
Does it make you a different kind of person?
Yeah, because I mean, don't you think that's super rare? Somebody that could be like, yeah, I was friends with Epstein. I think that
you're going to have to
Virginia
change.
Giuffre might have worked in our spa.
Yeah. If you want to develop the kind of appetite that's necessary to be a Lance Armstrong, you're going to want to sacrifice your scrotum. You're going to want to inject yourself with a bunch of steroids, and it's going to cause a lot of things to change about your own fertility. It's going to change the makeup of who you are. And you're going to be injecting things in you all the time and changing out your blood. And your team's going to be doing everything they can to hide this thing. And if you want to win, do you want to win? Is what is the question that's asked in the dark. And Lance Armstrong says, I do.
Yeah.
But when he says that, 1,000 other people say they do. And then the auction raises the price. He raises the prana. It's actually not correct to say only some people have the prana to afford it. All of us have the energy necessary. All of us can step into that role and become the lion, but it's going to require cannibalism. It's going to require the selling of your own soul, the selling of your own family, and that all of these are going to have to be moral decisions for you to sustain them as long as it takes. And this is what people lack the understanding on. This is a consensual moral decision that Donald Trump makes to be who he is.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Lance Armstrong, same with Arnold Schwarzenegger, same with you, same with me. And ultimately, this is what determines who you're going to be. This is what determines your prana economy. This is an underground economy, means that there's supply and demand. And if 1,000 people want to be the champion of the Tour de France, guess what? One of them's going to have to be at the top. So we need to find a way of having a semifinals. The first semifinal is just simple. Who's faster? The second semifinal is who has a team that's somehow able to kind of help do weird shit that kind of makes
Yeah.
them do better. The third semifinal is who's willing to stick this needle in their ass. The fourth final is who's willing to pull their blood out in the middle of the night and replace it with this different blood. The seventh is here's a magic banana. Who knows?
Exactly.
And you're going to keep doing that until you have the lead, until the top of the pyramid is complete, and then it stops. It stops because everyone drafting that person now can relax because they're like, oh God, this doesn't have to cost anymore. And now you know why professional sports are rigged. They're as rigged as wrestling. And you can say wrestling's rigged, but my God, these guys are athletes. They're doing more than you would expect if this was a free for all, because their job is to entertain. Their job is to captivate, because you have a prana economy. And Roddy Rod Piper says, I want to do this. Hulk Hogan says, I want to do this. And all of them decide, let's see who wants to do it the most. Here's a chair, here's a ladder, here's a cage, here's electrical, whatever it is they're willing to do, this will exactly be what it is. And when you start to look at that all of the world, whether it be a world leader, a mayor, a governor, a sheriff, a platoon leader, the head of the CIA, all of these are prana economies. And you're looking specifically into the direct soul of someone because they're showing you their antlers, they're showing you their mythology. And more importantly, I think we should maybe start to give this a little bit more respect, simply because it'll give us so much more energy to combat it. But the respect of, this is what this person is willing to
To
do
do.
to be
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that snakes and hair is a mythology. Snakes and hair is a Native American Turtle Island mythology of, we will take the person that is the most evil among us and put him in charge. This is the Haudenosaunee, the Iroquois Confederacy. This was how they built their world. They said, we're going to take the evilest among us and put him in the center and give him a gavel and give him a throne and say, dude, you're in charge. And he's going to collect all the other worst. He's going to serve as a bottomless pit, a collector, a Pied Piper. And all the others will worship him. They will come to his swamp and they will say, I want to draft you too, just like Lance Armstrong. And they will build a structure like a crystal. A crystal of corruption will form where there's a top, and all these were based on a prana economy that's real, that's legit, that's as real as which one of us wolves is going to be the alpha. It's exactly as real as that. And honestly, it's exactly as beautiful. This is the dark crystal. This is the shard of Ankhs. This is what it takes to literally define what a mountain even should be. Donald Trump is here for history. He doesn't give a fuck about you, me. He's here for him. In 1,000 years, am I going to have an arch? In 1,000 years, am I going to have all of North and South America given to me as credit, as I'm the one that did that?
Right.
This is what someone on his prana economy would have no choice but to shape his antlers for. And it's going to require a big ass fucking neck. If you're going to carry all that keratin, that petrified keratin there, you're going to have a serious clavicle. And ultimately, this is really, I think, what keeps us lost, is that we don't actually respect that. Because if we respected that, we would have a different idea of how government should work. We would actually start to realize, wait a minute, this is great. All the evil people are here. All we have to do is just kind of stop letting them pass laws. All we really have to do is just kind of like not really pay attention to them. Like, government would be easily, this is the best thing ever. It's like a bug zapper, and you're having and you're trying to camp.
They all go
Yeah.
to the
And we could really start to see how this is the oldest model in the world, and that this is actually what creates civilization.
right.
That you need this central pillar of which one of us is the biggest phallus, like, which one of us is the biggest jerk.
Right.
And so the system that we have is so perfect, Carmen. It's so, what I see as a greenhouse that's just lit. It's just like, oh my God, look how well this system's working, because I understand the mythology. I never would have gotten here had I not studied the mythology of Turtle Island, and more importantly, the Aztec culture. When I found out that there's those two towers, and this is the blue party and the red
The red
party,
party.
And even their mythology is, you've got the party of the Democrats
So
that's like
let's roll that back and start like at like beginner level.
Okay.
So how did you find out about it?
I wanted to become indigenous because I'm tired of being a white man.
I know you're serious, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because
And it's
I
funny
think this is, yeah, there's a Watiko, a kind of Zionism is a kind of mind control that stops you from becoming a color, and you be colored by the soil or the land that you live in. So you have to put your toes in the land. And the first thing you have to do is call yourself indigenous.
Mhm.
And to be indigenous, I don't get to say, well, I'm indigenous because over in Ireland, there's a bunch of cool ass Norse dudes. That's not me. I'm not that person. I was at one time. I'm here in America. So I started to look at my local culture and my local land, started to realize that it has nothing to do with the color of my skin. It's about how deep my roots are in the soil. And when I started doing that, I said, look, I have to learn these Aztec names. I've always stopped learning Aztec because you get to Quetzalcoatl,
Yeah.
Coatl, and you're just get tired, and you're just like, this isn't worth it because I can't even tell my friends about that. I'm like, hey, you guys here, Zippy Toe Tech, and they're just like, what do you say? And I was like, Zippy Toe Tech, and they're like, I don't do my nails, and I'm like,
You
no,
cracked me up
I
with
don't
the
mean
nail.
toe tech. I mean Zippy Toe Tech, the guy to death.
Zippy Toe Tech
Skull.
would be a good name for a pedicure salon, though.
Wouldn't it? It'd be awesome.
Yeah, you said that, and I thought it was really funny. And
So once I had enough enthusiasm, I just kept learning it. I just kept going back to YouTube and saying, how do I say this word? How do I say this word? How do I say this word? Until I could, say it. Once I could say it, I could read better. I could enjoy the read. I wouldn't be slapped in the face. And then I just started looking at the culture, and then we just uncovered Templo Mayor. Like in my lifetime, we found this place. This is why it's a seal. It's one of the seals that will be broken to show you the way into Revelation. Like it's, to me, it's such a big find because underneath the city of Mexico, they're building a highway. And there's like a jackhammer, and people are like hitting stuff, and a bunch of Mexican guys, because it's Mexico City, and they find this temple. They find the top of this temple, and they're like, what is this place? And they start finding skull walls, and they start finding this tower structure, very steep tower structure. And this is known as Templo Mayor. I know everyone knows of this, but at the top of Templo Mayor, there's two houses. There's a bicameral structure, and on the left you have Thalak. Thalak is blue. It is associated with water, or with rainfall, or with flooding, or with global warming. The idea that the environment itself could kill you. That's what this structure is. It's a battery of celebration to remember, hey guys, the environment can kill you. Don't forget, the environment can kill you. And then on the right of this, there's a whole new structure, and it's red. And it's Huitzilopochtli. It's this hummingbird. Huitzilopochtli, this war god, hummingbird god. And he's there for war and terrorism. He's there to remind you, hey, you got to be afraid of war and terrorism. You got to fucking be afraid of war and terrorism. You got to be afraid of war and terrorism. And during the Flower Wars, when sacrifices were brought to Templo Mayor and driven up the pyramid, the captor, the person who captures this, gets to declare, which house does this heart belong to? Am I sacrificing this heart for Thalak, or am I sacrificing this heart for Huitzilopochtli?
The red or the blue?
I don't know if the audience is caught up yet, but this is the Democrats and the Republicans. This is the party of global warming versus the party of terrorism. When I saw this, I stopped calling politics not real. I stopped telling myself that this was a quote, quote, fucked up system. And I started going, how is the soil this intelligent? How is the soil, the salt in this place so intelligent that it reemerges? Because the city of Mexico City was built, an eagle lands on a cactus, and it's got in its mouth a rattlesnake. and that they build here, the symbol here of this archetype, of this mythology, is a swamp, and they build on the swamp a bicameral
You can't even
house.
make that up.
You
That's
cannot
wild.
make this up. And this is why I started to realize this place is perfect. There is something about this place that is right on. This world is not broken. How could you have a broken world and resonate these octaves so perfectly?
Over
This
and
is a
over.
ruby. It's a ruby, right? That builds on top of itself. And if the ruby's this small, it's the same shape. And if it's this big, it's the same shape. And since then, I have had a great awakening. I am using the oracle of mythology, and I see it all, Carmen. I see it all. I so much of what I see is me going, I cannot look at this because I do not have the prana economy. That's how much I see. Is that I see the
I can
dark
relate.
matter, I
I
see
can
the
relate.
light matter, and all of it is done through empathy. It is done through compassion. It is done with, how does Donald Trump sleep at night? Because he would not do this if he didn't feel good. You wouldn't be able to sustain this kind of feeling. You're
It's
going to
true.
need righteousness. If you're going to step into the microwave, if you're going to step into that kind of radiation, because righteousness is a radiation. You have this main because the world has all these opportunities to pull you and grab you. It's this vulnerable spot, but you're pulling the antenna of all that worship into you. And that's why Donald Trump will do it. That's why he'll collude with Epstein. That's why he'll defile little girls. That's why he will take over countries. He will cut off SNAP benefits because he's pissed that they elected a Muslim mayor. And this is why I think he's not. I think there's some kind of mental thing. He's the some kind of medical issue has
Yeah, and
happened to
so
him
I
recently.
I I wanna talk about that because, here's what I like about James. James and I don't agree on everything. We have different opinions on things, and in a lot of cases, I would say maybe I just don't see the patterns that he sees, 'cause I would give him the benefit of the doubt of actually seeing things I don't see yet, only based on the fact that you've brought me into seeing new things. But let's bring it back down to really simple things like, if two people disagree on something, I love the way you just said about being really compassionate and empathetic about, okay, somebody's been told this thing, they believe it's right, and then when you say it's wrong and it's fascist, that makes them angry, or it gives them a feeling. Is that mythology?
Um, I think that if I caught myself saying that's wrong, I'm not actually practicing mythology.
All right, so then you like fascism?
No, no,
Okay, so when you
I
say
think that
something is
so I
fascist,
think fascism is a necessity. It's an inflammatory response.
got it. Like the
And
body's
so
immune system.
yeah, it's an inflammatory response to stop imaginating. There's a war on the imagination, and quite frankly, Carmen, because of you chicks, you get into witchcraft and you start running around the forest and it turns us on and we just start doing crazy shit. And so we were just like, we got to stop pretending. And King James, his first book was Demonology, and it's
True.
literally written there. You are not allowed to pretend. Audience, I'm not lying. It
Yeah.
literally says you will be put to death for pretending. I have the receipts to prove it. But this is a very important psychological change. And what happened after that is we invented a kind of literature that you would have thought would have come online first. Isn't it profound that we had fiction before nonfiction? And the fact is that nonfiction came after fiction. And this is why we have this weird thing about literature where it's like, well, this is all over here is fiction, but over here is nonfiction. And that I'm telling you, this is the rise of a kind of psychic fascism that frankly holds our society together.
Right.
And I hate that fascism has such a bunch of glitter bombs around it. So, people are like, oh, you can't say the word fascist, but it's like, dude, you're not going to be able to hear what I'm saying, because there really is a confinement, a forced peer pressure confinement. Sometimes it's with a gun, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's with a gun. If the women in the room don't like it when you do that, you're not going to do it. If the men in the room don't like you doing that, you're not going to do it. This is the kind of fascism, and it's collective because we're symbiotic. We want this fascism.
So true.
We want this. We would not be able to eat restaurant. You're literally sitting at a restaurant with basically the equivalent of a bear, and he has pants and he's eating too. And how are you going to trust him? How are you going to be able to digest your food sitting next to a bear that you've never met? You need fascism. You need him to prove that he's wearing pants and has socks on and has a wallet. And that's the only reason why you're like, okay, he's not a bear. I can eat next to him. And this is the fascism. So you can't really even hear fascism as like necessarily wrong. But when I slip
Yeah.
into, if I catch myself telling someone they're wrong, I think that I'm committing fascism, because ultimately all of this is imagination. It's imaginified, simulated mythology cast into a predictive algorithm that we call, this is what I think is happening.
And it's also contagious, and then there becomes groups of people who are helping with the scaffolding, as you would say.
Yeah, you form a collective.
Holding
Yeah,
them together.
yeah. We'll form a collective because we save calories. If I don't have to believe in 360 degrees, if I can just believe like this much, there's nothing wrong with this. This is why we're symbiotic. We're made to do this. But if you look at your body, you're already doing it. All your cells have their own nucleus. There's no central you. This is a collective. You're living inside a communistic Osiris, a living creature that is not aware of itself. And all the separate cells are insisting we're our own path. And this Zeus comes by, this authority, this kind of righteous authority comes by, and you get mesmerized by it. And you start to give it your attention. And this is just called the nervous system. That's why nervous system and Zeus are the same. See, Oracle mythology showing you what goes on.
And
And
that
then
would
you
be
head up to Mount Olympus. What would be Mount Olympus? It'd be the constellation of your brain, and all the neurons that you fire would be constellations. So you've got this platonic realm that's sitting up here, the realm of the spheres, and that this permanent place is showcasing you a reality that's already there, and you're just having a mythology about what you're experiencing. So the sky is blue, but your fovea doesn't have enough blue cones in it to read it, which is why most of that blue sky is hallucinated. It's hallucinated because it's a part of your mythology, which means most of your vision could be mythology. Most of what you'd interpret as those are roses across the field over there, really, you're probably just smelling the vibration in your eyes. And because you're smelling a vibration of that, you're going to paint what you think roses would look like. The
that is
same way
so
an AI would do it.
that
The
is
same
so
way.
true. So true.
This is why there's no objectivity, because you have a video card and I have a video card. Yours may have more memory right now, or it may have less. And it could be because you're busy or because you really like things kind of blurry.
Or how you filter, because
Yeah.
there's billions
Yeah.
of
And that's
bits
why
of
the antlers are
information
all about.
coming, and then what are you filtering for as a woman, opposed to what is he filtering as a man, or what are they filtering with as a Democrat or Republican, or whatever. But I will tell you that as an adult, I do weird things. And one of the weird things I like doing is I like staring at clouds. And when you stare at a cloud long enough, it literally changes shapes.
Mm-hmm.
And I have had so many people go, there's no way that happens. And I make them do it. The key is not to blink. But what's so interesting to me about that and what you're saying is that is proof that, to me, that's proof that there's like, we see a cloud and we just construct it like so fast, we don't even know we're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. This is actually how most processing takes place inside of our technology too, by the way, that we, even with our eyes, most of your periphery is recalled imagination, and there's a spot check, but most of your periphery is it's not even grayscale, but just it's a grayscale feedback, and it's not of color. This is what's fascinating. It's of difference. Your periphery sees difference. It sees change.
Yes.
It's not capable. It is, but you have to burn more calories. If you eat a lot of rich foods that give you more calories, you can render a more colorful hallucination, and your color spectrum will change from 5 colors of Newton to the 7 colors of the rainbow we see now
Wow.
to the 12, 13 colors that an autist sees that you just don't believe yet. And that all these spectrums are simply your conscious resolution that you're able to render cellularly, but in a collective way. So it's all a bunch of teeny tiny computers that have a very limited phonological loop, and that you're able to tie in all these memory pockets. And a phonological loop is just,
Render.
it's kind of like a flame. It's like a running wheel that you have to keep spinning, 8675309 867, because that's the number you need to remember for the combination. But someone just gave it to you and you don't have a way of transferring it, so you're going to have to walk down the hallway with a 6474 4244, whatever. And that's a phonological loop, and that each of your cells has its own phonological loop. I'm not making this up. This is how the brain actually processes multi windows at the same time. So you can be driving home and forget how you got there. Why? Because you have this all these multiple desktops of cellular phonological loops. And
Yes.
the best way to understand these would be biological algorithms. And the processor for these algorithms is the nucleus of your cell. The nucleus of your cell, through, I think it's ribonoids or some shit like that. I don't know. But it's able to record these on a strip.
So disappointed in you for not knowing.
And that strip inside the nucleus has a potassium scroll, a Thoth, that's right. The oracle of
Yeah.
Thoth is recording everything that cell happened. And it doesn't need context. It doesn't need to know, well, this is John Jacob Jekyll. It doesn't need to know that. It needs to know limbically, what was the flavor crystal when
Right.
this was happening? That's all. What is the flavor crystal right now? And if you're broccoli, the flavor crystal is going to start with interesting. Oh, that's sour. Oh, that's perky. Oh, that's interesting. And then a couple hours later, why do I feel more vital?
Yeah.
Why do I have a different perspective on life? And all this is the cellular hallucination stretching out. This is why you have digestion as just another sense, because you can taste something through a radio telescope of your esophagus. That
Right.
long intestine is how you'd stretch out a long wire so you can read that long vibration, which is why digestion takes so many days. All of these are allowing you to render a mythology, a cosmology, and the way that you pick your cosmology is through your face. It's through your nerves. Your posture places your nerves. Look at this. I'm fucking badass now. Look at this. God, fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. Watch this. I'm gonna do this too. I'm gonna put this down. I
Get
got
your
the
posture.
pyramid fingers. I'm gonna channel Trump.
And what does that do for you?
Right? Feels great.
Oh, okay.
I
Got
feel
it.
like right now I feel great. I don't know how long I can sustain this. What'll happen is someone on the chat will go, "This guy's full of shit." Then I'll be like, "Oh."
Or that you're
Or someone will say, "This guy's brilliant." And
patient,
I'll go like,
or
and how much I deserve is directly equivalent to my feeling of righteousness.
right.
There's no such thing as arrogance in this realm that I'm speaking of, because
Right.
there's either failed antlers,
Right.
right? I want a rack that has 16 antlers. That's what I'm doing right now.
Right.
I'm 16 antler, baby.
Yeah.
16 antler.
You're just
That's what I am.
peacocking, as they say.
Sure. But the peacock typically is like a negative sort of thing that we would accuse someone of, right? When in fact it's peacocking if they're not able to hold their antlers up. Imagine you've got 16 antlers strapped to your head and you're just tired. You're just like, ugh. And you're trying to turn sideways so you can get through the door, and people are seeing, you got toilet paper stuck to the end of your shoe. It's like that kind of thing. That's peacocking.
Right.
So the act itself of holding those antlers, all of us want.
Right.
And the righteousness. Remember when I told you that if there's 1,000 people that want to be on top, then you got to figure out who's willing to cheat, then who's willing to dope. It's the same thing with antlers. It's the same thing.
Right.
So only one of us in a stadium of 10,000, only 4 of us get to be the band. And they get to be the band because they got the fucking antlers, man. Boom,
Yeah.
boom. I'm
They'll do
Kiss,
it. They'll do
I'm
it.
Paul Stanley, boom, boom, boom. And I can only have these antlers. I can only be Gene Simmons if I got makeup on my face.
Yeah. And
And
you
if I
can
have
take
makeup on my
pictures of
face and my hair's crazy and I'm dressed like a fucking goth girl
Yeah.
and I got the giant heels, I could pull this off if I get a tongue extension. And I can do that because I have the power of righteousness found in the costume that I create. And the costume is an agreement I have with my audience who wants to see it too. But
Right.
only 4 of us can make it. And the 4 of us that get to do it, they need to be tested. Are they willing to do what it takes? And Paul Stanley's like, I'm going to wear a mesh chest, let my chest hair come out. I'm going to put a big old star on my eye and a crazy ass perm. And I'm going to wear yoga pants before they're invented. And I'm going to live in leather the
Right.
rest of my life. And I'm going to travel more than anyone. I'm going to play as hard as I fucking can. I'm going to practice so fucking much. I'm going to do a lot of drugs. I'm going to have a lot of sex.
Sounds like a miserable life.
I think it would.
Yeah.
Because you start to learn to lose the fidelity, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
That's
we
a
can
really
like,
good way of putting it.
we're like 5 octaves, like you and me. We could hear Mariah Carey do 5 octaves. Like she's really talented at her range, by the way.
Right.
Like that's what I'm saying. She's exceptionally talented at somehow being able to go super low, super high. She has 5 octaves. It's quite extraordinary because most of us have 3. That's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
She's very different kind of a creature in that way. An orca will have 12 or 13.
Wow.
So if you have a 12 or 13 orca, I'm about to explain pedophilia. I'm so sorry. I'm about to justify why
Can
there's
we talk
pedophilia
about
in the
this
world.
on YouTube?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Sorry, maybe I shouldn't have said that, but I think it'll be okay.
All right.
If you have a 12 octave appetite, you're going to taste flavors that others would find repulsive. And we would find them repulsive because we're on a spectrum of 5 octaves.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at what that really is, you're looking at innocence, you're looking at virginity, and that those are actually quite natural things that we would find attractive in each other anyway. That there's just the realm is stretched, the what's acceptable is released from its cage because those antlers would not fit. They would not be able to be that if they weren't inside a larger tank.
Mm-hmm.
So I can respect where an orca is. I can watch it torture I can't watch it, but it'll torture a humpback whale's child. It'll play with its throat for days. It's not even hungry. It's this sick fucking psychopathic, just like, oh my God. And hyenas will do the same.
Nature is so
hyenas
cool.
will pull apart an elephant's child. It's the same kind of thing. And I think that you're looking at, and if you look at the brain matter of an elephant, if you look at the brain matter of an orca, these guys are superior beings limbically. They have a higher capacity for limbic resonance than we do. They have more antlers than we do. And if you have more antlers, you're going to be able to see and hear things that someone without those antlers is not going to be able to see. And this is, I think, ultimately what makes us uncomfortable. Ultimately, what makes us chop our antlers off in public is because we're terrified of that thing. And I get it. I don't want to lose my fidelity. I think my fidelity is important. I don't think we're going to lose it. I think that all the autoimmune, since the 20s, there's like 200 new autoimmune diseases that we've discovered. And at first, when I have 6, if I have 6 antlers, I'm like hearing that that's evil and it's because we're being poisoned. And if I have 7 antlers, I start to see that the immune system of a prior civilization is no longer equipped to live in this white sun. I don't want to be confusing, but if you could just imagine, this is a white sun, and since 2019, but before that, it's sort of a yellow sun. It's just
Yep.
you're still in the world, but just the lighting's different.
It's
It,
brighter,
yeah.
so it exposes more,
Yes, exactly.
or more
And this
things are willing to
exposure,
come out, so to
yeah,
speak.
and this exposure also allows us to become more permeable. And when we're more permeable, we're able to gain more fidelity. And I actually think that a lot of the autistic community is showing you that. They're showing you a hyper resolution, not on an orca scale. I want you
Right,
to think how majestic an orca is at 13 octaves, but how cruel. And I want you to go the opposite, that instead of being on a 5 octave scale, you're inside of a 1 octave scale. And I want you to see how much more resolution you would be able to see, because you get to have, right, a 4K, 4 trillion pixels. I'm just making this up. 4 trillion pixels between your lowest and your highest, and you're only in 1 octave, which means you're going to have a B sharp, a B sharp sharp, a C minus minus, a C. This probably doesn't make sense if you don't know music, but like uh, all of the notes, the 12 notes on a piano would have to be 64. And how are you going to play music with someone that has 64 keys and you have 12? It's possible, but there's going to be some fascism. You're going to have to, you guys are going to just make a lot of noise for each other.
right,
So we
right,
have a culture that's gaining resolution, but it looks like something could be broken. And that brokenness really does come from the comfort of fascism we have when everyone's playing the same strings. And society's given us a world now where that's not necessary. I can connect with people like you. We've never met physically. And I would be suffering from schizophrenia if I tried to have as many antlers as I had now before the internet, because I wouldn't meet someone in my community like you that
true,
resonates, that
right,
makes me feel it's okay.
right,
So the more we become connected, the higher our resolution grows. And here's
mhm.
what should blow your mind. That means the more cells that are hallucinating, the higher the resolution. And that's just how the body works. What I told you earlier,
And it's really
that
similar to the eye
as
experience.
above, so below.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's very similar to what we were saying about the eye experience, about me looking at the cloud, because, another example of, like, I also when my son was younger, he had, dyslexia, and they were saying it would be very healthy for him to spin, and so I just like spinning. So
Mhm.
periodically, I'll break out in a few rotations, but one of the things that I've noticed when I stop, the room continues to move even though my eyes are completely still.
Yeah.
And so what,
Yeah.
like, that's insane. It's the same as the clouds, like, changing. And so it really does show you that a lot of what we consider the true, like, 3D world
Mhm.
is a construct, and maybe all of it.
Yeah, that's why I think cellular hallucination is a way to go. People will call it a simulation theory, I'm not trying to push against that. But a simulation in my mind kind of tells me there is this absolute that's right here, and that it's being simulated for you and everyone else in a kind of a simulcast way. And I
Right.
hope you can see the subtlety as to why I don't know if that fits. A holodeck, a holodeck. We're in space.
I'm more into the holographic
We're
physics.
we're in space, and we cannot actually look out the window. We don't have the kind of substance, material that lets us see space, because when we do, as soon as we look at a sun, half the crew's dead because their eyes have melted. So we instead we have instruments. We have a Dratus contact system. We have an AI that's running the hull. We have all these sensors. We have shields. We have made up systems that are pretending, that are telling you stories, fairy tales. It's painting blips on the screen that you've asked to be notified about certain contacts that you're tracking from your tower. You're a submarine under the water, and it's dark everywhere. The only weapon you have is a simulated ping. Bing. And when you simulate your antlers, this is why I say it's really all about your nervous system. That nervous system sends out a signal at a certain frequency, and anything that matches that frequency is going to come back in a much louder amplification because your antlers are shaped in that way. So you can focus that. What am I looking for? I'm looking for a prop of an enemy ship, the propeller of an enemy ship. In order for that, you know what an enemy ship sounds like. You change your transducer to reduce the signal to try and match that. And now you're listening on that device the same way you do with your face. So when we see each other, a functional MRI would light up both our brains. And if I tell you, oh, I stubbed my toe, and I was to tell it realistically, your brain would feel the same shape. It would light up in the same way because your antlers have moved the nerves in your face. By the way, I'm saying face, I really mean ventral. You've got a whole system of
So
ventral
would this be
nervous system.
the cranial nerves, or is this
No,
this
I
is
mean, so it is. I'm sorry, it is. Your trigeminal nerve is going to be your
okay,
antlers of your face, your
okay,
Judas kiss, as they say.
right,
But your ventral system is basically your trunk up until your face.
okay.
And that when you engage in social contact, all of your ventral lights up. And when you become scared, when you become hypothermic, it it clutches. When you enter sympathetic versus parasympathetic, really you're just turn on the antlers.
Yeah.
Holy yep, that's loud. Turn off the antlers. And when they're on, you're busy. When
Yeah,
they're on, you've got all these signals. So you're like, well, so
yeah,
sometimes it helps to have them off. Most of us only get to turn that on for a little bit. I'm one of them. You can only take so much. So we
right.
compassionate through this sonar signal. This is why I think compassion really is just telepathy, because to compassionate, you have to put your antlers into their shape. Someone mentioned earlier a nice compliment. It's like you can really channel Donald Trump. I think they meant it's a compliment. It's because I can imagine how his antlers would be, and then you just start to look at all he's doing, and you're like, well, this seems
He
to
would
be
have
okay.
to be thinking this if he's doing this.
Yeah, because I'm giving him the benefit of a moral life.
Right.
I'm not calling him moral. I'm giving him the benefit of seeking a moral life because I know how the body works. I know that your body is going to generate certain chemicals based on the social feedback that
Mhm,
comes from those around you. It's just
mhm.
true. I definitely am not trying to argue that people can't be twisted. Of course they can.
Right.
We twist our children on purpose,
Yeah.
precisely so they can survive certain things like that. But at the heart of the system is a system that's responding to feedback from the crowd. This is why Trump may hate you, but he still wants you to worship him because he's connected to the tentacle and he knows it. That's why he hates you. He hates you because of that. Do you see what I mean? He hates you because you are holding the gold that he wants so bad, and it's fame and it's all the other stuff.
Attention and
And
yeah.
this is because we're symbiotic. This is why I can give him the compassion. See, compassion is not consent. And if you don't know that, it's not going to work. If
Right.
you think, well, it means no, it means you're seeing your enemy. If you're on the mat and you're in a judo match to the death, you're going to compassionate your enemy. Mike Tyson shows the most compassion I've ever seen in the world when he punches someone in the face because
He knows.
his entire universe is focused on every part of your skin, on everywhere you're going. And his entire being, he will trade. This is what I mean by prana economy. He will trade his entire being to hit you in the face. He will rip your ear off. He will swallow it.
He'll
He
bite
will
your ear off
find your children and give them a bad credit rating. Like he will do whatever it takes.
to
And
win.
this is the antlers. This is the prana economy that makes him king of that space. So
Yeah.
you have to look at what are you willing to do to be in that space. So all of us have the capacity for it. I mean, certainly there's limitations, but even that, the capacity is still there. That if you had a different structure genetically, because we're given a different character through our genes, so we're sort of the avatar, but we're kind of stuck with a strength, intelligence, wisdom, constitution, dexterity, charisma, that those 6 traits sort of are epigenetically handed down to us. So we feel sort of fated, but this is typically for a proto psyche that doesn't recognize that my grandfather and me are the same. I'm just the living root. This
Right.
is why I think being white is against it, and you need to become indigenous, because if you can plant your ka into the soil, you can now imaginate, compassionate your grandparents anywhere you want. But in order for you to have a space for them, you got to have a place in the ground where their roots can grow, and then you imaginate that. But if you're white, you're living in Zionism. Someone's promised you something that will come in the future if you pay enough taxes, if we burn enough witches, if we kill enough people in foreign space, if we build a big enough wall, and that this is what it would
They're
take
all based
to.
on mythologies.
Yes, these are all mythologies,
Yeah.
because ultimately the idea of us being slaves, we're not willing to admit how much that helped us. And we won't be able to let that teat out of our mouth, I think, until we can say thank you. We're not saying thank you for slavery right now. We're embarrassed by slavery. We're ashamed of it. So we insist it didn't happen. That's why we have Trump. We need a master that is so bad, so so bad, that it will serve as a divining rod for the rest of the tomatoes in this greenhouse to fall off that plant and go, I don't want to live if this is what it's like. And this is
Right.
how a fruit finishes itself. You start to notice your sanctity is more important than your survival. And this is what I am. I'm not interested in being in a Donald Trump, because my sanctity fruit is ready. I'm ripe, meaning that the amount of power I have in the world, the amount of control I have in the world is fine. I mean, I wish I had more subscribers. Fuck, I wish I had more
Well,
subscribers.
maybe we'll get you some. Uh,
But you know what I mean? It's like this is as Trump as I'll ever be, because I'm not interested in saying the first lady of France is a man, and it's a global conspiracy, and buy my boner pills and all the
right.
other stuff you're hearing. That it's I'm not willing to do that, because I don't have sanctity. It's not my fruit.
Right.
That's not. I don't want to taste the world like that kind of orca. You know.
So, can I ask you a question? As far as mythology and blood libel goes,
Uh-huh.
or selling one's soul, how would you connect those two?
I don't know if you can sell your soul as much as you finally develop one. So I think what we consider
I see what
he
you're
sold his
saying. I see
soul
what you're saying.
could
Like
be someone that just doesn't have a soul yet. And we're
they
really cruel about that. We're really cruel about how we treat proto-humans. And ultimately we're Cabbage Patch Kids that develop a soul, that develop a consciousness. And it's a very specific flower that requires very pristine growing conditions. And just because some of us may have a flower before others isn't even a sign that we're the ones that are going to make it, that it could be that the later flowers do better. So if anything, we're the Oconee bells. These are the tiniest flowers that pop up in the winter. And it's the very last thing you want to do if you're a daisy or some shit like that. So it's more about understanding that. And there's just the prawn economy is going to still allow us to devour each other. And we do that through saying, you don't know shit. And here's the truth. And I got a coalition of thinkers over here that agree with me. And we got tenets, and our scripture is older than your scripture. And our hieroglyphs are, carved deeper in the tree. And all these things we generate because our cellular hallucination gains power, sort of like a mitochondriatic battery in the sense of the mythology. If I call myself a Christian in the land of Christians, I'm going to feel really good about eating their potato salad. I'm going to be able to walk into this place and play basketball in a gym at a Southern Baptist church. I'm going to be able to get on this bus I didn't pay for. We're going to go out to camp. We're going to go camping, and we're going to eat s'mores. We're going to play guitar, and I'm going to have spiritual conversations. So that's a way of moving your antlers into your environment.
right.
See, your indigenous mythology. This is why I don't really care what you're going to call your religion. Are you connecting to people there? And more importantly, what is the quality of those people that you're connecting with? I'm not here to judge that. I'm got expensive taste. I'm looking for exactly the right kind of quality.
Right.
And that makes me high maintenance. I'm high maintenance as fuck. I'm a cheap date and I'm high maintenance. It's weird. I'm both those things
Can I
because I'm
rewind?
satisfied with little because of my fidelity,
Right.
but I have a very, very high expectation of who I can digest with.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Because
It's
it
like
makes
that.
you super uncomfortable. So
Yeah.
can I go back to the what do you call it? Protolytic human?
Proto-human. Yeah. Yeah.
Proto-human. So
Yeah.
what that's like a
Like a prototype.
prototype and
Yeah.
it and I just for clarity, because I think this is one of the things that I would say I would give you in your little James column, I would give you a tick for something that you've taught me. Um, because I think that is such an interesting way of looking at it where, especially when you look at some of these kids in Hollywood and some of
Mhm.
these people, they're caught at such an immature age to make these decisions. I see what you're saying in that they didn't necessarily sell their soul, they just hadn't developed it yet and didn't know what they were giving away. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Yes. And I think that being sacrificed for a group is very satisfying if you don't have enough self-worth. The animal kingdom is a factory of, I want to have meaning in my life. Hathor is the first goddess, and she's the cow. She gives you, here's some ground beef, here's some steakums, here's hamburger helper, here's milk, here's some cheese.
Butter.
Look how moo I am. Look how unafraid I am. Look how big I am. I'm convenient. I will follow you around. I'm your food. I will follow you until you're ready to eat me.
Yeah.
I'll give you my skin. You can wear it. You can turn it into a hat. You can
Oh
turn it
my
into
gosh, yes.
shoes. I've got all these things. I've got 6 stomachs. You can literally feed me 10 cans. It's fine. It's this is a kind of whoring of self-worth. This is a kind of tricking on the street. Vertebrates are tricking on the street, trying to find value in consciousness, trying to find meaning. And the way that you would find meaning is to find fame, meaning, do other people want to interact with me? So maybe you'll shave your armpits, maybe you'll put on deodorant, maybe you'll cut your hair, maybe you'll stop swearing so much, whatever it is. And that at the Hathor level, at the animal level, you have think a rabbit doesn't like develop like a knife. Well, like a rabbit is never thought to develop a defensive weapon. It doesn't turn
Just
into a
skittish.
skunk. It
Yeah.
doesn't develop a smell. It doesn't have poison. It wants to be prey. It literally it's made out of like soft fur. I have handles on my freaking head that you can grip and pull me somewhere. I have
Oh,
lucky feet.
never thought
If
of
you
that.
cut off my foot, you can use it as a fetish toy. I'm the softest fur. It's exhuming this quality of pick me.
Mhm.
Most of nature, this predator prey is a relationship of self value equating itself.
So good.
And that which is chaste is that which feels it belongs here. And so you end up phasing into mythological archetypes, phases of orbit where consciousness can exist. So when you are a cow your entire life, you're worshiped by those around you until they take you to the slaughterhouse. And in that moment, you've saved your entire consciousness. This is how much less complex a cow is. You take your consciousness, and at the moment of slaughter, your heart is weighed. Anubis says, was this worth it? And
Right.
you, as the cow, you would get to say, this isn't fair. If, if, if you had a good enough life to reach the point of death and you could afford to look at Anubis and say, this isn't fair, this would be a way of your electron popping up to the next orbit. And you'd start to come back as something with a little bit more sentience. And one of the first things you might want to come back as is predator. You might feel so much violence, epigenetic revenge, that you may want Anubis to grant you to remain in the land of the dead and become a predator instead.
Right.
And you'd spend that life as a predator. And when you're starting to eat innocent, cute bunnies, at the end of your life, Anubis would say, was it worth it? And you go, oh, the bunny was so cute. I feel so bad.
Right.
And if you could afford that, think about it. Because if you have the idea that the world's broken or that this guy doesn't make sense or whatever the fuck it is, it doesn't matter. But your antlers are the one that are telling you where you're going. And at the end of your life, if you got to be a predator and you could afford shame, if you could come to Anubis and have shame and say, I feel bad that that bunny was so cute, that you would level up, you level up.
Right.
And now you're something else.
Yeah.
Now you're not predator, you're prey, but maybe you're a giraffe. Maybe you're this sort of weird in between, and you're a koala bear, and you're like, how the fuck did this happen? And you're just like, what am I gonna do? And if you keep going, and if you keep going, and if you keep going, this energy is able to conscify itself. It's able
Right.
to develop a protective mechanism. Isn't this what warm-blooded means? A cold-blooded animal is a reptile that has gotten really good. It's gotten really good at what it does. It's gotten so good, it's been able to keep, it's like, I'm going to keep this molecule warm my whole fucking life. And the rest of the molecules are like, that's bullshit, man. That ain't never going to happen. And then you pull it off. Now you're a frog. Oh my God. I'm a
Yeah.
frog. I'm sort of half warm-blooded, half cold-blooded. And you're pleomorphic. We are pleomorphic now. And the fascism is telling you stop. The fascism is telling you don't you dare. And I think the key to this is imagination.
Yeah.
The key to growing a tail is to imagine that you have one. And we got furries wandering around. We have wars over people that want to wear tails in public. We're like, that's the whole civilization is falling apart because this guy's wearing a tail in the grocery store, or he's pretending he's a woman, or he's calling himself Svengali and he's only got one name. And we've decided, look, you guys can do this, but you need to dope. Who's willing to be Lady Gaga? Who's
Right.
willing to be Twisted Sister? So the war on imagination is healthy because of the fear that we have about our own power to be pleomorphic. This is probably what the chimera means, that archetype of the chimera.
Sure.
Right? The chimera is it's
The
not
combo.
just the combination of different creatures. It's the ability to pleomorphically change at
Okay.
will. And all of our genetic science, it's chimerism. It is this new approach or romance with a power. And the world's already like, you can't do this and you can't do that. And meanwhile, in Texas, they're doing it anyway. Meanwhile, in Argentina, they're doing it anyway. Hi, Hernami, Emma Watson,
Uh-huh.
Hermione, is that her name?
Hermione.
Hermione, thank you. Hermione has just came out saying, I'm going to self myself.
Yeah, I saw that. That's so crazy.
Right. So she's taking her cells and she's providing both of the chromosomes, and she's utilizing the surrogate to carry that to term. She is cloning herself. And this is the final frontier. I'm not saying it's good. I don't even care if you're like, oh, I can't believe it. I want you to know it's the final frontier of us learning the true nature of ourselves.
Right.
And that once we are living in a cloned world, we start to notice the psychology and, more important, the cellular memories that are transferred inside of a clone. And this is all real science. I've just written a book about this.
Well,
But
and so do you believe they've already cloned people?
yes, of course.
Okay. And
Like I can't imagine how we wouldn't have.
how do you think they have a soul? They had to have come from, I guess, an egg and a sperm, right?
So the egg is the one cell in your body that's missing a chromosome, and the sperm is one cell in your body that's missing a chromosome, but all the other cells in your body have both.
And so they're just using other cells.
So she's taken a cell from her thigh, for example, and that cell, she's pulling out both of those, and she's creating a blastocyst or a zygote. I'm not sure exactly which that would be called.
Yeah.
And this is being cloned in a lab. That all these zygotes are being created in a lab All
But
these
how do you
plastic
create
hoops are
a
being.
zygote without
You're artificially inseminating a surrogate cell
it's a
from
cell, but not an
from
egg?
something else. Yeah, it's a container. Yes, it's a vessel.
Okay.
It's a womb. It's a womb, and that can be placed into a, a carrier, a surrogate, and she will allow that cell to mount to her cellular wall, to her. Uh, uh, why is my
Her
why did my brain
uterus
stop
or
working?
her womb? What
The placenta will grow on her uterine wall, and that uterine wall will develop a root, and that root
oh my
will turn
god,
into a ball, and inside that
that's
ball, a child
so
will grow. And all of
crazy.
us are meant to be chimeric because we're already chimeric.
That's what
That
I was gonna say, like, I remember somebody, maybe it was you, talking about how we already have been chimerid or
yeah,
there's some
yeah.
sort of
So like a woman was accused of kidnapping because her biological son did not have her same genes. I hate that people are going to think this is an anecdote. This is just one of like thousands of times this has happened. This isn't like a one-time thing. And our court system would require that they do a genetic test. But being chimeric, part of her genes have a different chromosome structure. There's a different signature. And so I'm saying this because I want to answer your question about a soul. And so even though her uterus has one set of genes, the rest of her body maybe has different set. And so when they went back in to win her case, because she kept swearing up and down, look, I was there. I gave birth to this thing. It grew inside of me. That they finally tested her inside the womb because she found a doctor that knew enough. And it's not even like this is rare science. It's just that people are so fucking paranoid about this stuff, about trans stuff, about all. I mean, literally, there are 3 different chromosomal sets of gender. There just are. I mean, there are. You
right,
can
I
go to
know, I saw
Wikipedia,
somebody was saying something,
and people just freak out because they're not ready to accept the pleomorphic nature of what
absolutely,
life
people
is.
born with both, absolutely.
So yeah, and it's biologically just, it's not even like it happens so much that you can't even call it a defect. Like it doesn't even fit the definition of defect. It's probably more based on the modes that we have in nature, that most biological, frogs are an example, but it's just one of many, that they're
Right,
able to change this. It's not just changing sex, it's more about changing the gear of fertility. This is ultimately what's happening, Carmen. It's not really about you're becoming a man or a woman. You're simply moving into a different gear where fertility is not the main mode of being. And why would you not need a main mode of fertility? It could be because it's a prison planet and the Luciferians. It could be that. It
right,
also could be that the colony is healthy enough that it doesn't have to focus on fertility. This
yeah,
is
this
this
is
is what
so
happens
far
in
out of
every
my
flower bed.
realm.
This happens in every bee colony. This happens in every flower bed around, that you have modes where the flower will slip into and out of fertility based on what's needed. The chimerism makes all of this possible. I'll try and pull us out of the weeds, but the
Yeah,
chimerism makes all this possible. And the chimerism is why we're so terrified. But when you clone a horse and you have 12 of them, all 12 of those horses come with predetermined memories.
I did
They
know
know what
that.
sex they are.
Yes,
They have the same paranoid fears.
yes,
There's certain things that are different. The spotting is different. The hybridization is different on certain parts of them, but otherwise they're the same. They are trained to the same. They respond to dressage before they're taught. This is not an exaggeration.
and isn't it true that, like, Secretariat or some major, like, winner that they did
Yes.
this with, and then they did it because that mother
Polo.
had the
Yeah.
memory of winning?
Yes, yes. There's a polo player, a very famous polo player, and he cloned all 9 of his horses, and noticed right away. It's actually really it's turned into a multi-billion-dollar business. And Argentina has a one of the few countries that has no moratorium on clones. This is why when you start to look at World War II, I know this sounds super conspiracy theory, but I'm just telling you, if you start to look at all the Nazi technology that moved to Argentina,
Yeah.
you've got a world that's been completely open. No one's been paying attention to it. It's also one of the highest human trafficking capitals in the world is Argentina. And so I feel very certain, very
That there's
firm
clones
in
involved.
commanding, in saying that there would absolutely really have to be clones. And my latest book speculates on those human clones because of there's a kind of madness that develops in these horses, Carmen. And the
Ooh.
madness is because there's ghosts in their machines. They think they're male before they have puberty. When this means that you are entering into puberty psychically before biologically you're even ready. You're not even a person anymore.
Or at least
In
a
fact,
horse
I would
does.
argue that the clones only get a life if they outlast how long the horse lived. That only then would they start to be able to formulate their own
Oh, I see what you're
paranoias
saying, 'cause
and
they would
only
not
start to
be.
deal with their own trauma, which is why I can finally now tell you, if you buy into this idea that the genes are an antler too, that they're an antenna that's shaped in a certain way because the codons have a certain signature, that a clone is proving something very profound about what a soul is. A soul is an antenna.
Or a memory or a
You can
series.
recreate that antenna at any point in the world, whether it be your great, 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 great grandfather or you, and that antenna will reflect its environment the same way a sonar signal on a submarine will tell you what's in front of us. So
Wow.
souls are a shape of an antenna, and you could look at this almost like a phone number because you get to listen to the world on channel 8675309.
Right.
Instead of numbers, it's AGCDs, GCGCAC, and I'll just read out your chromosome field. And there's breakers in there, there's little spaces, there's little periods and commas. And
So I
you'd
told
be
you.
able to define this is my antenna. No one else is like it. And this is why I get to have my own experience in here. This is why I get to feel like I have free will, the same way that if you and I had browsers open to Google and I can look at something and you can look at something, we're both hitting the same place, but we're seeing completely different realities because our antenna is sending a different UDP, a different
Right.
protocol that
Right.
says, show me everything you know about feathers or chimerism, right? So that's how it works, which
So
means every single person could be simultaneously reincarnated simply by constructing those antennas and developing some sort of conscious limbic vessel for them to listen to the signal. It's a very, very different idea of what a soul is. And I hope that people will see that I'm describing a coaxial connection to the sun. Meaning, I'm just saying, if you want to picture what this means, you're simply tuning into the sun with a certain genetic antenna, and that antenna lets you literally hallucinate this amazing body you have in the shadow, and you're special because you have an antenna. This is kind of an important point. Because you have an antenna, you get to occupy space here that no one else can occupy. In other
right.
words, two people can't be in the same place at the same time.
Right.
In my mind, this is one of the most profound places of this network. The
Yes.
reason why the pineal is purposely inserted into the center of the head, I think, is the same kind of a thing. It's an occupial. How do you store cans in the same cupboard without having them merge together? Because if they merge, you'll lose the illusion of reality. Your simulation will break down because you violated the protocols of a network, right? That you can't have two people on the same google.com. You can only have one, which is just an IP address. And you and I are the same. And if we try and make clones, we end up with some really crazy data, like really insane, crazy data. And we're just getting started because ultimately people will be pleomorphically cloned. They will consider themselves an agency, a corporation of Tito's, 12 men that all are the same clone that are in the world together because they feel if they live in the world like this, it will give them an advantage, give them a
Oh,
different kind of
man.
reality. This is the future I think that is coming. It's
Oh,
probably already here because
and
this
they
is
don't
not
want to reveal it.
this is not super fancy technology. It is very hard to inseminate a cell. It's much harder than it is to just
Like
impregnate someone with a turkey baster. I'm talking about something very difficult, a
different. Yeah.
lot of failure rates. So I'm not trying to suggest that it's been around for a long time, but I think it's very safe to say, if you consider that the military is like 50 years ahead of
Yeah.
science, they say,
Yeah.
it'd be very easy to imagine that in the 40s, we probably could do something like this. Keep in mind that in the 40s, this is when we discovered corn transposons, the genetics of corn. So we knew very much a lot about genes then. We were
Right.
making massive breakthroughs in looking into our history because of the genetics of corn.
Well, I mean, look at what they basically just stripped food of, like, all kinds of seeds and stuff
Mhm.
too. But I have one more question, because I told you I would keep you at the most an hour and a half, and it went so fast. But I was curious. So try to get into the head of a Christian person, and this Christian person grew up in a very abusive, traumatic SRA type family,
Yep.
and they have those things imprinted on them, right?
Uh-huh.
If you were to look at it from what you were just speaking about, how it's all an antenna,
Mhm.
why is it that when somebody goes through deliverance, sometimes they're able to release those traumas and those curses, or, if I guess, I don't know what you would call them, but maybe
Yeah, they changed the
memories.
shape of their antenna.
Okay.
They changed the shape of their antenna. So the nerves don't move, but the tapping into relaxing, dilating those nerves. If you press your eyeball, if I press these eyeballs, oh yeah, that feels good. The reason why it feels good is because I'm relieving pressure from my polyvagus. So, the giant nerve that's running through my entire body, I can
Yeah.
access. That's why you'll see people naturally press their eyes. It's releasing some pressure from
Releasing.
there.
Oh, interesting.
So you have sort of an electrical tension inside of your nerves, and that tension is sort of petrifying in places where it could be soft. And if you want
Right.
to petrify something, you're squeezing, and when you're
Yeah.
squeezing, you're not digesting, but you're really going to get it in. We're going to lift this thing, but we're going to stay inside this octave because we can focus all our energy right here, kind of like when you're squeezing with on a garden hose, right? You put your thumb over the garden hose. It's the same thing.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily bad. But if you trust enough and you have enough calories and you feel regal enough, this is why I think pride's really important, super important, because it allows you to reach an antler strength that lets you see other things.
So in a
Ultimately,
Christian. Okay, go ahead. I thought you were done.
ultimately, I think this comes down to appetite. And an SRA victim has an epigenetic appetite for being victimized. And this is a horrible thing to say. It's
Right.
completely anti-society, and no one should listen to me. Yeah, what the fuck? I don't know shit. Now that I've said that, if you had an epigenetic appetite for that, this would be called alcoholism. It would be called trauma. It would be like, why do I beat my kids? And that you'd be asking the same questions because the answer I gave you didn't feel good, so you're going to move on. But if you want to stay, you go like, why do I have an epigenetic appetite to do this? Now it's going to tell you everything. Same way Hathor, the same way you learn from the sacred cow, the same
Right.
way you learn to, why does that feel good, cow? And the cow would have to tell you, because I belong. And why would you have an epigenetic desire for SRA? Because if you are truly being ritualistically abused in order to satisfy a god like Satan, for example, I mean, there's lots of different contexts for that. But if that's
Okay.
the case, this would be the pinnacle that you could feel like you belong and still be slaughtered. You're not going to be able to go higher than that. And so, in a way, you could look at trauma as you're locked in a mode that you've had success with. And the only reason why you'd come out of it is if you reject that, as if you hate what happened, as if you wouldn't want this to occur, as if you regretted all these things. And these are very expensive endeavors. You're buying your freedom from that electron ring. And you can degrade yourself. In my mind, if someone is upset that they were abused, this is the highest form of vibration. This is the most optimal setting for someone on that plane. And more importantly, I don't think you're ever going to see the people that don't mind. You just won't see them. They won't complain. They won't mind. And they're satisfying a relationship, an epigenetic desire they have for fitting in. 70% of the white people that came to Turtle Island were basically slaves, indentured servants,
Right.
criminals, people that had no home. They were just had too much space. As soon as they landed here, they had nothing. They sought out relationships in slavery relationships with Indians, with each other, with other indentured servant contracts. All these are chattel slavery. That's all, just chattel slavery. And we would enter into chattel slavery the same way a cow would enter into a slaughterhouse, because we're trying to find self-worth. And if master says we have worth, this is the only place we can get it on a steady state. And if we stay here in this master's worth, we're going to get oatmeal. We're going to get hay. Fuck, we may be able to plant crops and like grow shit over here. And
Well, that makes that makes sense
yeah. So
because
all of your trauma is I think you're on a hermetic ladder of consciousness, and you get to go up or down. You really do. I wish we would give more permission for people to go down. We tend to find it very insulting. We tend to suggest that's horrible, but it could be that you wanted to be a lion and you started to eat someone's face, and you're like, I don't want to be a lion anymore. This is not what I signed up for. And ultimately your freedom to pleomorph would give you permission to go up the vertebrae ladder, hermetic ladder, or go down the vertebrae ladder. It literally is a hermetic ladder of bone. You're all of us have backbones, and that backbone is this antenna of self-worth, I think.
interesting. Well, that's probably why, like you were saying, you stand up more straight and like,
Yeah.
as you establish more agency, a lot of times you're just more comfortable and you're not, hiding. I've even seen, women that have like covered their faces with their hair a lot,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're just not there yet. But anyway,
Yeah.
thank
There's
you
a
so much.
strategy. You're going to want certain parts open. I don't want to get graphic, but like even our body parts. So the things that we feel flattered by, it's like, I met a girl once that's like, I think I have beautiful collarbones. And I'm like, well, you
Right.
do have beautiful
Yeah.
collarbones. And I'm like, I never had that in my thoughts.
Right.
And I just want to say that's a resolution. Her antenna is focused around here.
Yeah.
She feels self-worth if you notice my collarbones. And when you look at the fashion of what different genders wear, you're looking at antenna technology exercised over time with culture, the same way deers were, the exact same way a deer does it in the forest, right? A deer's going to go, hey, you want to get laid? And she's like, your antlers aren't big enough. Then he comes back, hey, you want to get laid? And she's like, your antlers are too big. And he's like, fuck, man, how do I got to do to get laid around here? And this is the survivalism, right?
Right.
I'm not even trying to be gross. This is how you would survive. You would
Right.
have to survive by finding someone else who agrees with you that they're going to give you half of their DNA. And now the rules have changed because Haremy is like, I don't need permission anymore.
Gosh, it's so
And I
crazy.
guarantee you it's going to be a whole new world. Of course it is. It's going to be insane.
Oh
But
my
when
God.
has Gaia not been insane? When has this place not been insane?
Yeah, that
Right?
was
Who's
another
it?
question I was
Who's
going to
that?
ask you. In all your research, have you ever seen like mankind ascend, but then kind of go back down into being more
Yeah.
space?
Yeah. Egypt, the three civilizations of Egypt, massive collapse. You turn to a sacred knowledge of the placenta. Then you're like, no, it's a penis and it got cut off. And now we got to make it out of gold. And now we got to, and the technology fell, the architecture fell. But you have to understand entropy. We have a backwards definition of entropy. It's so weird. So the collapse of civilization is the rise of animism. The rise of animism is giving the two lobes separation from each other. So your left brain and your right brain are separate entities. People may not know this. One is existing over here, the other's existing over here. The longer these bicameral nodes are next to each other, through the corpus callosum, they start to build connections.
Connect.
And so you start to become less animistic. And so your brain is basically has to be grown, probably takes about 6,000 years. The first brain took 17 trillion years to grow. But after you have a seed, after you develop that seed, you can replant more brains into a space. and it maybe takes 6,000 years to grow, and you would need civilization to formulate those pathways because they're relational pathways. This
Right.
is
It has
very
to be
different.
from experience
Yes,
in order
exactly.
for you
Yes,
to, and it's
yes.
literally the way we're still learning. I know there's some people that are going to be like, "Oh, it was created by God," and that's good too. But there
I'm one
is
of those. Yeah,
yeah, but there is an actual adaptation that happens even in a single lifetime.
yeah,
Where
yeah.
we're
Enoch seed. If you look at even Noah's Ark says it'll be 3 by 5 cubits. You know that?
mm,
Yeah, it does. It's like three. It's a 3 and 5 relationship. This is how long the ark is and how wide it is. And when you start to look at how the DNA is wound, it's round. It's a staircase
mhm.
wound in a 3 by 5 relationship. And when you start to look at what genetics is, it looks to me like an Enoch seed. Enoch's the only one of the patriarchs that was taken before his time. And
Yeah.
he was told, hey, dude, you're perfect. So we have to kill you. And he's like, okay. And that Enoch means seed. And if you think about it as a template, that you're a starter plant, and in order to start a plant from an heirloom tomato, you're going to need a really good seed, and that's your Enoch. So all of us have started from the Enoch, and the patriarchs is the first realm of how the plant spreads. It's hermaphroditic. By the way, the patriarchs were probably hermaphroditic because this is how you start a culture. This literally happens in every single plant form in the nature, by the way. So I don't like it when people are like, that's crazy. It's not crazy. It's actually crazy to not know this just about basic biology, because the starter plant is hermaphroditic so it can spread, and it lives longer so it can spread. And patriarchs live longer, and their seasons were reduced. And when you look at the story of Noah, Noah was roofied by his own kid because he
Yeah,
wanted to be able to have his own line live on. It's in the Bible. It doesn't
that's
say
true.
roofie, but it's the same thing.
It
So
is.
you're looking at a hermaphroditic past that terrifies us because we changed so much since then. You're looking at an ancient Egyptian worship cult that worshiped this Amun, this man, female. You have Yahweh, a name that literally means she, he, and that you've got all these verses in the Old Testament that misgender people, where all of a sudden a dude's called a girl and a girl's called a dude. And then you have the story of Jacob and Isaac, and Sarah covers herself because she notices that what's his name has his schlong out, and she just wants to be able to fit in. And I know this is intense and insane, and how dare you, but I'm just telling you, if you have the antlers to see into the oracle mythology, this is what it's showing you. And isn't the entire thing that we're freaking out now,
Well,
isn't this just a
in all of
reflection
the
of what
art.
happened long ago? And more importantly, aren't we recreating the very things that were there long ago before, which means we're just completing the circuit.
Yeah.
You're just going around the hero's journey all over
I have
again.
no idea. I'm still trying to figure it all out, but I have seen so many paintings and so many sculptures of Moses, right? That had
Mhm.
horns.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's wild. I was
Yeah.
shocked when someone told me that, and I was like, "Really?" And I
Yeah.
started looking, and they were right.
Yeah.
They just
Yeah.
look like little curled hairs, like, they're
Yeah.
not really big, but
Yeah.
I was surprised.
Yeah. The
There's so
horned
much.
Venus, the horned Venus is a mythological creature, and Hermes is hermaphroditic.
Right.
Hermaphroditus comes from that name. And this is the oracle mythology speaking. My book, Ark of Baphomet, covers this.
Yep.
Black Eyed Club covers the clone part. I've seen some comments though. I know people are super offended, and I'm sorry. I
No,
don't
no,
mean to
no.
hurt
It's
anyone's feelings, but
I
I just think that that's it. And someone was like, "Is this guy pro trans?" I'm just pro mythology, man. That's all I am. And
right.
honestly, when you look at actually what makes a cell gender, believe it or not, the blastocyst, when it's formed, the first 16 cells of you that calls yourself a self. This is the Elohim, by the way, in the Bible. Well, like if you read the Bible, it's telling you what happens when a bunch of cells meet and go, "Hey, let's hallucinate together." They say, "We are that which we are," and their pronouns are they. The Yahweh's pronouns in the Old Testament are they.
Yeah.
So he
It's
starts
plural.
to simulate what's happening in the world. So there's a separation of waters. This is actually osmosis. The blastocyst pulls water in from the mother's womb for the very first time. There's salt in that water. The sodium is allowed to be stored as a record because sodium is a record keeper for the cells. You've
Mhm.
got a potassium agent that's able to write spaces, the vowels between the notes, and you end up with a
So
kind of
amazing.
strong mythology that's just telling you what it's like to be birthed. But when it comes to gender, the blastocyst, once it forms, it asks the cell, are you on the outside of the body or on the inside of the body? And if that cell is on the outside of the body, it says, I am man, I
Yeah.
am male. And if it's on the inside of the body, it says, I am female. And guess what? All the male cells end up going hermaphroditic when other cells formulate on top of them.
Right.
So your cells, every one of your cells, except for your original daughter cells, this is why I think they call them daughter cells, even though Wikipedia will tell you different. Those central cells, they're the only ones that get to always have that pure virgin center where they're female. Meanwhile, your blastocyst turns from 16 to 96, and all those things that used to be male now have to become female because they're on the inside of the body now. So this is how
That's
I feel like
fascinating.
I'm
Yeah,
preaching to
I
people
never
who
knew
just want to
that.
burn down my house, but it's like this is really how it works, and we're just tapping back into the meaning of biology is all I think.
Right, right. Which is so interesting because you are right. There's mythology everywhere. And the Old Testament is full of things that confuse me. And I'm sure a lot of it has to do with, all the mythology. And I was stunned when I found out how much mythology is in the Bible. And so I don't get offended very easily, and I think that it has served me well in that I'm able to understand different viewpoints and the ways. And oftentimes, I really think that they're saying the same thing, only refusing to call it the
Mhm.
structure. They just
Yeah,
don't
and
like your
that's
structure,
why I
or they
say
don't like your
fascism.
scaffolding, or whatever
Yeah,
it is. But a lot of
and
it's
that's the fascism.
yeah,
It's just I'm uncomfortable with there being a different take on this. Can we stop that take?
yeah,
And it's an inflammatory response. Your
yeah,
body does this all the time. Your body's like, "This is too flexible. Can we stop this?"
yes,
And it works,
yeah,
So you can't even really that's self-preservation is self-worth, isn't it? And so if you're going to inflame yourself to preserve yourself, that means you have self-worth. And I don't want to be caught with Anubis having to explain why I was arguing against self-worth when I
yeah,
see it in a cow or a
yeah,
prostitute or a drug addict or Trump or me or you.
right.
All of these are equations, antler equations, chronic economies of self-worth expressing itself on a conscious torus, toroidal hallucinogenic disc. It's just that simple, people.
Oh, it's so tell everyone where they can find you if you haven't offended them yet,
Yep.
and, what books you have, where to find your books, where your Patreon is, like, how to
Yeah.
join, all
You
the good
guys can find me at CDGCCCGGDTCCCTCTCTTG. There's my genetic signature. You guys can check out my live stream right from the soul right there. So you can do that. If some of you don't want to do that because you're like, I don't want to get in your genes, you can find me at jtrue.com, jamestrue.com. I have a YouTube channel. 7 books out. My latest book is Black Eye Club. It's pretty badass. It's took me a long time. It's a prequel to another larger book, sci-fi genre I'm into. Most of my writing, though, is much more mythological speaking. So Ark of Baphomet explains to you the ancient religions of this weird he-she god and how it was actually stolen from Egypt. And even the sacrifice of the ram by Abraham, it really is let's just blame it on the Egyptians. Let's just sacrifice them instead. So blood libel
the
goes all the way
golden
back to
ring.
Egypt.
Yeah,
The Ark of the Covenant, all of the tabernacle stuff is taken from Luxor. I explain all that. I also explain why the placenta used to be so much more important. It's the eye of Horus itself, blah, 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 stuff like that. You guys check me out. It'd be great. And subscribe
yeah,
to my channel. That would be super. I'm on YouTube under James True.
super easy to find him, and, thank you so much, James, and
Thank you.
I really like hearing from you. So thank you for agreeing to come around here more often too.
Oh,
It's
I love our
it's
conversations.
it's
You're great.
fun to learn from you. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend, everybody. And James, you too.
Yeah, you too, Carmen. Appreciate it. See you next time.
All right, bye.